Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Downey Central Missionary Baptist Church YouTube page. Happy Friday afternoon. It's time for our semi-weekly updates. Haven't been able to do them weekly, but am doing them every other week at least. So wasn't able to do it last week. My wife and I were out of town, didn't get a chance to get to it, so wanted to just pop in and say hi. Hello, Valerie. Anybody else who may be joining, hello. Won't be long this afternoon. Just wanted to give you some updates on some things that are going on at the Downey Church. I put all of the necessary information in the chat area, I believe, or the information area on this YouTube video. That includes our address, website, and any other information, phone number, email address, all of that information. So you can contact us. My name is Pastor Steve Waters, and would love to see you sometime. We've had several visitors come from our area. We're happy to thank you, Valerie. And all that information I just mentioned is in the description. So good. Thank you for that. So would love to have you come and join us. Give us a visit. We meet every Sunday. Starting at 10 o'clock for Sunday school, and then we have our worship/preaching at 11 o'clock. And that usually goes until around noon, maybe a little bit after sometimes. And then we take a break and meet back at 2 o'clock for an afternoon Bible study. I know that sounds like a lot to some people. Many churches have gotten out of the custom of making a day out of church. Meeting just in the morning, or maybe having several options for you to attend one service or another. We don't do that. We meet as a church, and we have our services in the morning, and then we meet back in the afternoon. So very traditional. Baptist have done that for many, many generations. So anyway, just some things that are coming up at the Downey Church that I do want to mention. We had what many thought was a very successful movie night where we showed the cartoon, the animated version of The King of Kings. That was back in August, I believe, not that long ago. Had a good turnout for that. We set up a little outdoor theater in our parking lot, and you can bring lawn chairs and sit and enjoy a movie. We usually have snacks and popcorn. This time we're going to be meeting on, I forgot the date. We just talked about it a few days ago. September 19th, I think. I'm going to post it soon, but we're going to be watching the movie Courageous. And the reason for that is we're going to be starting a series of Bible studies on the biblical family. And we're going to kind of kick that off with watching the movie September 26th. Thank you, Valerie. So September 26th, we'll be watching the movie Courageous. If you have not seen it, it is an excellent movie, a very popular Christian movie, a challenge for men to step up and be the leaders that they are called to be. So that's kind of the audience that it's geared towards. It's not really a children's movie. So we'll try to make plans to have something for children to do. But it really is geared towards the men. And the reason for that is since we are starting a series on family, Bible studies on family, one of the main roles in the family that has been neglected for a long time now is the role of the husband and the father. And it has had quite a very detrimental effect on our society and even in our churches. And just because things go that way, and that's kind of how society views things, it does not mean that it is God's plan. God's plan is always the best. So once we figure out how we're going to roll out the Bible studies, they will most likely be on a Friday night. Not sure if we will do them successive Fridays or if we'll space them out. There will probably be 4 or maybe up to 6 Bible studies specifically on the family. breaking it out into the different segments of the family as a whole, what God's plan for the family has been from the very beginning. That has not changed. And then break it down with the role of the man, father, husband, woman, the wife, mother, and even including grandmothers and grandfathers in all of this as well, and what their role is as they get older. And then, of course, children, and so on, and even talk about some of the craziness that is going on in today's world that families are dealing with, that are battling with in public schools. Satan is working very hard to try to destroy the family, and he's doing a very good job of it. So we need to really be prepared. So we're going to be talking about a lot of that coming up. So mark your calendar, the 26th of this month. We're going to be showing the movie Courageous, and then soon after that, we'll begin with the Bible studies. And then other things coming up with heading into the end of the year with all of the different things going on. We are going to most likely do another worship event, singing event around Christmas time, where we invite our sister churches, family, friends, neighbors from the community to come and just celebrate in song and testimony the birth of Jesus Christ. We've been doing that now that this past year. We did it, started last year for Christmas. We also did a similar thing for Easter. So I'm pretty confident that the Downey Church will want to keep that going. So it was a good time. So as far as other events go, I have had people ask me if we do anything as far as trunk or treats, or have any kind of a harvest celebration for Halloween, an alternative to Halloween, and we really don't. The Downey Church has historically never gotten involved in the Halloween events. I know some people really enjoy that. They keep it simple. They keep it like more of a fellowship type of thing, keeping all of the darkness out of it and just making it sort of a harvest festival type of thing. And that's fine. We as a church just don't do that. So we do not do that, just in case anybody is wondering. So I think that's it. We will have more specific plans of things coming up. We're going to start doing some fundraisers for our VBS, and then also for our youth camp. Youth camp is usually the end of June or July, and then our VBS is right around that same time as well. So we're going to start making plans for that soon, and then also doing some fundraiser activities and events. So hopefully you can participate in that. Anyway, as far as this weekend, this coming Sunday, we have been doing a series of studies through the first, I say 10, but really it's going to be the first 11 chapters of Genesis. And then from there, I'm not sure how we're going to proceed. Continue doing a series with the life of Abraham and the Abrahamic covenant. I'm not quite sure about that yet, but as far as right now, we're focusing on the first 11 chapters of the book of Genesis. And I am thoroughly, personally enjoying the study. It has been so enriching for me to really just kind of dig into these chapters and verses and meditate on these early days of which we know nothing about other than what it is recorded in the Word of God. And that is the pre-flood era. Now, much of the secular community dismisses that. They don't believe in the global flood. The Bible teaches it. I do believe it. I believe there's plenty of evidence that supports that, physical evidence, natural evidence that supports a global flood. So we're getting into why did God destroy the world and every living thing except for those that were on the ark at that time. So what kind of prompted this for me was in Matthew chapter 24, Jesus makes a statement in talking about his second coming, that as the days of Noah were, so will it be when the Son of Man returns. And it was most likely, up until now, and what is going to be happening in the very near future, the darkest time spiritually in human history. Human history has had many dark moments, sad moments, evil moments. But the two events that kind of bookend our existence is what happened leading up to the flood, and then what it's going to be like right before Jesus returns, that great tribulation period. So we're going to kind of leave that out. We'll get into it a little bit as we kind of proceed through this and making a comparison of the two. But right now we're really focusing on how things that were so good, so perfect, from man's creation in the Garden of Eden up until now, where we're at in Genesis chapter 6. And we're going to be in Genesis chapter 6 this coming Sunday. And we got into a little bit last time, 2 weeks ago. But we're going to get into it a little bit more and just talk about the darkness of that era. Let me read those passages and just make a couple of comments. And like I said, I'm not going to be very long this afternoon as far as time-wise. But I do just kind of give you a taste of what we're going to be looking at. Genesis chapter 6, verse 1 says this: "It came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. And the Lord said, My spirit will not always strive with man, for that he is also flesh. Yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants in the earth in those days. And also after that, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them, the same became mighty men which were of God, men of renown. And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thought of his heart was only evil continually." Wow, that is an awful statement. "The Lord was sorry that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him to his heart." So, yeah, there's a lot here. And one of the main points we're going to consider is, and I'll probably spend most of the time on this point on Sunday morning, is what's called the total inherited depravity of man, and how we are all born in sin, and how that, if that is not contained and controlled through regeneration of our spirit, and then walking in the Spirit, as described in the New Testament, I believe the same thing is being described here. I think the sons of God are nothing more and nothing less than the righteous men and women who served God the way that he intended. Those are pictured and mentioned in Genesis chapter 5. Genesis chapter 4 mentions Cain's descendants, those that strayed away from God, those that became lifted up in pride, chose their own path rather than following after God. Now, I have been told that the position that I hold is not only wrong, but it is greatly in error. And that's fine. People can think that, but I believe that's exactly what this is talking about. I believe these sons of God are the righteous men and women of that day who were distracted. They got their focus taken off of the plan of God, the family, doing things the way that God intended with the priesthood, the sacrifices, and all the things that he intended in that early patriarchal period. Well, their focus became distracted by the men and women who were just making all the noise in the world. One thing I want to just address momentarily, I'll talk about it a little bit on Sunday, is what it says in verse 3. For that he also is flesh, man is also flesh. God says his spirit will not always strive with him. Yet his days shall be 120 years. I've always found that very curious, interesting, what God actually means by that. 120 years. Does that mean after the flood and after the whole world shifts and changes, that man is now only going to live to 120 years? I mean, at this point, there's records of them living well into the 900s. And then after that, after the flood, after Noah and his sons died, then the longevity for man greatly dropped off. Abraham, I believe, was 160 when he died. Moses was 120 when he died. Others lived that age. So that is one possibility. Another possibility is that the time that God makes this pronouncement of death, the death sentence is decreed by God. There is now 120 years from that point until Noah gets into the ark and is saved in the ark through the flood. That's a possibility. I've actually held that position for many years. And there's a third possibility that it may have more of a connection to Genesis chapter 1, verse 14, where God mentions the times and the seasons. Let me pull up that verse really quick. Of course, my computer is going slow. Verse 14, God says this, and this becomes the calendar, God's calendar, the timeline for man. In verse 14, God said, "Let there be lights in the firmaments of the heaven to divide the night from the day, or day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons, and for days and for years." Signs and seasons, days and years. The word seasons is the word moed. Plural is moedim. That actually became representative or became a literal life event for the Jews with the Passover and all of the feasts that ended up being celebrated annually. One of the things linked to that is the 50-year Jubilee. So some have suggested, and I've rattled this around in my brain, and it's beginning to make more and more sense to me, that there's really no outright statement or evidence of this, just some very interesting possibilities. One of the most interesting is this, that every 50 years, they were to let the land rest. It was a year of Jubilee. They were to let the land rest. They were to release everybody from their debts, a lot of things. It was just really a time of reset for the nation of Israel. And if you take 50 and multiply it by 120 Jubilee years, what do you get? You get 6,000. 6,000, 6 days, 6 1,000-year days for man. And that's a position many people hold. I myself hold it, that man's time on this earth is 6,000 years, 6 days. The seventh year, the 7,000th year is the day of rest, the Lord's Day, when Jesus, the righteous King, returns, the second Adam, our representative, to reset everything and rule and reign on this earth for that day, that 1,000-year period. So I find that very fascinating to think about. So as far as the total depravity of man, I do want to close this out by reading a passage that I'm going to include in the sermon, but just think about this for a minute. If Jesus said that as the days of Noah were, so will it be when the Son of Man returns. Now, I know every generation says this, and the older I get, I sound more and more like just an old man complaining that things are not like they were. Fair enough. It's probably true in many cases. I do feel like I'm being phased out of this world. I don't honestly like technology for the most part. I learned to deal with it and use it like this. I think it's beneficial. But I have to say that I think all this AI stuff and all the other things that are just being planned by man, going to the moon, setting up civilizations on the moon and all of that, that just doesn't sit well with me, not only personally, but I think biblically, it just doesn't sit well. But listen to this. In describing, now, I don't think this necessarily just describes the generation before the flood. I think it could. It's describing every generation that has progressively gotten away from God. Now, once the flood took place and Noah got off the ark and replenished the earth with his descendants, it didn't take very long for things to get crazy again. And for the next, 3,500 years, we'll say, 4,500 years, whatever it is. It took that long for things to become as they are now. I think some of the things that kind of slowed down the digression of man away from God, moving away from God, was the church. First of all, not just the church, but the nation of Israel, God's righteous government, the covenant with Abraham, and then Israel, of course, the righteous covenant that he made with them, with the priesthood, the sacrifices, all of that, the promises of Messiah, the promises of the coming kingdom, and then, of course, with Jesus, the Messiah, coming, offering himself as a sacrifice for our sins, taking on our sins in his flesh, dying as the righteous sacrifice, and then ascending to heaven, promising to come again. I think all of that kind of pumped the brakes for man moving so quickly away from God. It only took 1,656 years to go from Adam's fall to what it was like in the days of the flood. It's not a long time. I think our world now has more hope, still with the promises of God. Anyway, I'm gonna just read these for you to give you some things to think about before Sunday. Romans chapter 1, verses 18 through 32, a little bit lengthy, so bear with me. So Paul writes here, kind of describing man in his horrific state. And by the way, let me say this. I know some like to blame Satan and his involvement in the sin of man and causing man to do these things, leading man astray. And this is, I've always believed this, but it's just become more of a conviction for me in the last few weeks. The fall of man has nothing to do with Satan. It has everything to do with man. All Satan can do is put the dangling carrot out there. He can put the sin out there, the temptation. He can't make you or I do anything. So Adam was completely at fault. He fell. We are in this fallen state because of his seed. We all have his seed. And we all are born in this degenerative state that we must be changed. We must be born again. And without that, it just gets bad. Now, when even saved man who can sin and can stray from God gets to a point in that, listen to how God describes this. I don't think this is just describing lost people. It's describing people who know God and have willfully chosen to not follow him. Okay, all that. Verse 18, Romans chapter 1. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth in unrighteousness, because that which may be known of God is manifest in them, for God has showed it unto them. For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and deity. I think King James says Godhead, so that they are without excuse. Because when they knew God, they glorified him not as God. That started with Cain. Cain did not glorify God as God. And him and his chosen lifestyle had a very negative impact on his descendants. Neither were they thankful, but became vain in their imagination, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools, changed the glory of the incorruptible God into an image made like corruptible man, and birds, and four-footed beasts, and creeping things. Therefore, God also gave them up to uncleanness through the lust of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves, who changed the truth of God into a lie, and worshiped and served the creature more than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. For this cause, God gave them up to vile affections. For even their women did change the natural use of that which is against nature, and likewise also men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burned in their lust, one toward another, men with men working what is shameful and receiving in themselves the recompense of their error, which was fitting. And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a reprobate mind to do the things which are not proper, being filled with all unrighteousness, fornication, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, debate, deceit, malignity, whisperers, backbiters, haters of God, despiteful, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents, without understanding, covenant breakers, without natural affection, implacable, unmerciful, who knowing the judgment of God, that they who commit such things are worthy of death, not only do the same, but have pleasure in, listen to this, but those that have pleasure in them that do them. Wow. Does that not describe our generation? Does that not describe what our society is like today? It seems like if you go against the grain and speak against the things that are going on, transgenderism, homosexuality, gay marriages, if you even insinuate that you are opposed to that, you are the hateful one. You are the evil one. So we're there, folks. We're there. How much further it's going to progress, how much longer God is going to allow this to happen, only He knows. But we need to be prepared. So I went over what I intended today. So anyway, thank you very much for listening, for viewing this. I'm going to post it on the different social media avenues. So anyway, God bless all of you, and hopefully we can see you soon.